Hello, sir. Welcome to Micah's podcast series.
Hello, sir. Thank you for having me.
Sir, you are my fifth guest who's below 30. And it's always fascinating to talk to youngsters like you. And the ideas that you share would be amazing, especially to the youngsters. So before we start, I would like to request you to introduce yourself.
So my name is Darshan Dhruvanarayana. By profession, I'm a lawyer, and I did my schooling from St. Joseph Central in Mysore, and after that I did my pre-university from Sadvidya semi-residential, after which I took up law school. I went to School of Law, Christ University, and once I got done with my graduation, I moved abroad. So I did my master's in public policy from the University of Edinburgh. It was a one-year course. After which I got back to India and I started practicing immediately. So while I was practicing, I had the opportunity to work in different courts, starting from district, high courts, and Lokayukta and other forums. So while I was practicing, during my third year of practice is when my father, Mr. Dhruvanarayana, who was also a politician, who was at that point the working president of the Karnataka Pradesh Congress Committee, and he was also a two-time MP and two-time MLA. He passed away due to a sudden cardiac arrest, after which his constituents and his party workers and his followers insisted that I contest from Nanjangud, where he was supposed to contest, and they've given me this opportunity to represent them now. So I'm very honored to be a public rep, and currently I represent the Nanjangud Assembly constituency, and I'm the youngest MLA in the state right now.
Right, sir. Sir, when you were practicing as a lawyer, you told you have practiced in all levels. Was there any interesting case that you came across? Could you share something about it?
I mean, practice is very different from what we learn in law school. Law school is mostly theoretical, wherein practice gives you a lot of exposure to reality. So you're part of the system now, and you get to see a lot of real life events happening around you. Certain things involved with the government, certain things involved with certain forums, certain things involved with the judiciary, and various other private problems that you get to see. And I can't disclose certain matters of the cases I've handled, but of course I've got to handle some really interesting cases. I've got to argue in really interesting cases, and I should be very thankful to my senior. So during my internships as well, I've had amazing seniors who've taught me well. And while I started practicing, I was practicing under Mr. Prithvikiran Shetty, who is a renowned advocate who practices and focuses mainly on the Prevention of Corruption Act, which is very well prevalent in as of today. So so for that opportunity, I really have to thank him, and gave me really nice exposure, and I've dealt a majority of the cases under the Prevention of Corruption Act, IPC, and bits of other Companies Act, and matrimonial cases. So that gave me a different approach to life, and I began to approach certain things in a very different manner. And I'd like to put it that way, that it really kind of opened my eyes to this new world. From it changes your perspective on the entire system and entire the way that the governments work, the way that judiciary works, generally the way life works outside of your small bubble.
True. Sir, there are two important things. One is basically you are a law graduate, and then you have done your studies in public policy abroad. So what encouraged you to take up two of these things?
So to be very straight, I feel like policy kind of expanded my horizon, and ever since I was in law school, to be very specific, in my fourth year, I was part of the Legal Aid and Awareness Committee.
Okay.
As part of it since my very first year, but in the fourth year we kind of got to explore different options related to that committee, wherein we got to organize legal aid awareness camps in remote villages. So that kind of put me in very close ties with the policy era. So public policy, as I've seen, it was a very interesting subject, since we got to be very close to the villagers in remote sectors of society, and we got to witness what kind of problems they're facing and how it could be resolved and why they're not being resolved. That put me in a very interesting space, wherein when you have exposure to policies, so as a lawyer, you'll have a different layer of thinking, and it kind of expands your entire horizon. So I thought, maybe with a law degree and a public policy master's degree, it will open up different doors for me, a wide range of options for me. And that was where the foundation was set for my master's degree. After which, when I pursued that master's, is when I came across variety of interesting objects in that master's. Specifically speaking of my university, it was ranked around 15th in the world at that point of time. And I got to deal with very interesting people there as well, because I was surrounded by certain authorities and certain public figures who were, in the bureaucracy, working in different countries. So I got to share my thoughts and experience their policies as well. So overall, I got a very interesting approach to global policies when I studied abroad. So again, that kind of helped me in the long run. And when I came back to practice as well, so I kept my touch with international organizations where I interned, where I had contacts with. So that kind of is helping me today as well in my political sphere. The degree and the law school degree both have become a solid foundation for me to set up my base as of now.
Sir, we come from a very diverse society. According to me, drafting and implementing public policy in a society which is as diverse as that of ours is not easy. Do you differ in your thoughts, or do you subscribe to my idea?
See, policy making in its own sense relies basically on the policy making cycle, as we all know today. The policy making cycle consists of different steps that the policy undergoes before it gets enacted. So, as we've studied policy in a very simple form, and there is one certain aspect that involves, external factors, like let's say third-party players or influencers or certain parties who influence policy making, that cycle. So that is where the policy becomes very challenging. As of today, from what I've seen, we do everything apart from policy making. Mm-hmm. Public reps, especially in India, we do everything except for policy making. Policy making involves a lot of rigorous research, primary, secondary research, after which it has to be discussed, it has to be debated, and then we'll have to consider what the private players, what the third parties, what external factors would influence on the policy, and maybe then finally we could enact it, and then again reviewing it is also a part of it. So this entire cycle is where there are a lot of barriers basically, and we've also seen various barriers while policies are drafted, while policies are enacted, while policies are being discussed. So certainly I see a lot of barriers in the policy making cycle. It is quite natural, and it is well informed as well. Theoretically as well, we all know that there will be certain barriers, there will be certain third parties that will influence our policy. So yeah, it's very natural to think about it that way.
Has your academics helped you to understand policy making better, and is it helping you to deal with the barriers which you just discussed?
So there are two parts to your question. The first part, yes, certainly, because I've gotten a very global approach to policy making, and I've dealt with a lot of international bureaucrats, wherein they were my classmates, and we've engaged in discussions on global policies as well as Indian policy. So I have a very different approach to what policy making I can bring to the table. And the second question, as you said, barriers. barriers are different in different corners of the world. So each sector, each policy differs from each other. So we'll have different, third-party interferences with different policies. So that itself is very challenging as to how you could, cross those barriers is very challenging. How you manage situations, how you solve the problems is very interesting in different matters. So it depends.
Okay. Sir, we'll change the direction of the discussion towards your current work. We were going through the newspapers and we did some reading. We understood that you have one of the first projects that you are working is to reduce the animal-human conflict, and that seems to be something very close to your heart. And newspapers have reported that you are doing effectively and you are trying to help people as well as animals and protect the forest. So what is the idea behind this and what encouraged you to do this?
More importantly, ever since I got elected, so in my constituency, we have remote villages located very close to the forest. And these are not villages that have forests in them or that have very thick vegetation or very thick cover of forest. These are normal villages with normal fields, agricultural fields. And it is very surprising for me to notice the fact that they're being recklessly having issues with wild animals. So I insisted that I have to come and visit them at a particular point where they face majority of their problems, which is in the night, dead in the night. So at one point of time, one night I get a call at 11:30, 12:30 in the night saying elephants have attacked our fields and we can't get over it, and there's nothing that the forest officials can do as well. So the people are very frustrated and quite naturally very tired. So we decided to visit such villages at the night and just to see what is happening and how people are dealing with the situation. So as we entered the villages in the night, we could see people sitting on top of a tree. They build natural huts on the trees, and they are monitoring the elephants, they're supervising elephants, and they have their own crackers to deal with, and they have their pelt stones, whatever. So that's how they were dealing with the situation at that point of time. And we had a word with them. We kind of had an interaction as to why they're facing the problem, what could be done, how the problem could be resolved. And we kind of took another turn inside the forest, and we kind of explored as to why this is happening, and we noticed a lot of faults. So there were certain places where the EPT, the trenches were quite naturally flattened by the elephants itself, because they're very intelligent animals. They also know how to deal with things. So they've kind of flattened the trenches, and there are certain places where the elephants have found the fact that the rail barricade being broken down. So they've kind of made that passage safe way for them to enter and exit. So we noticed certain loopholes in the system. So that's when we realized we'll have to take certain steps to. The first step would be that to make sure that these things are straightened out. So that's when we realized that for the rail barricades we'll have to improvise and adapt to certain situations wherein we put vertical barriers as well. So that's when we started installing rail barricades vertically to the horizontal barricades, and that's when kind of we got control over it. And then in certain villages we had problems with certain wild animals such as tigers and leopards, and especially during my tenure we saw one certain death of a lady, a remote village called Baldurundi, and after which our entire perspective changed and we stepped up. So that's when we insisted that the forest minister visited our constituency and specifically to that place. And when he visited, we had a small event wherein he interacted with the villagers and he also seeked what they want. And that's when we realized that all these wild animals, especially carnivores, are stepping inside the fields because of certain domestic animals, like certain wild domestic animals like deers and others who've been entering the villages because there are no barriers. So on an experimental basis, we installed a mesh barrier alongside the rail barricade for a 1.5 kilometers pilot project. So that's when we realized that even that is working. So after which we also requested the forest minister for an elephant camp as well, so that they could trace things better and we have more people to work with, so that they can work around the clock. So we've gotten that as well, and we've got the remaining rail barricades done as well. So certainly we've moved up, and there is some reforms, and I certainly would not say that we've achieved something, but there is something that we've done, and there is more to do. And more importantly, I think we have time. I've just completed a 1.5 years, so I think we have time, and over the time, I think 1 or 2 years, I hope to completely resolve the issue, because the local villagers there and the leaders there time and again told me that my father, while he was the MP, he had promised that he would resolve the situation and make sure that the entire area would be human animal conflict free. So that is my goal for the next few years that I have in the office, and I certainly do try and hope that I could achieve certain things with the cooperation of the people there as well.
It's really fascinating to know these things, sir. We wish you all the best, and we hope this thing is taken up and it is solved. Sir, I have another question. The question is, we generally see senior politicians giving calls to the youngsters, asking them to join active politics. So when a youngster like you is in the politics, how do they treat you, and how is it going on?
I should be really thanking the Chief Minister of Karnataka right now, Mr. Siddaramaiah. He has been very proactive, and I'm the youngest member right now, and he's been with me throughout. Ever since my father passed away, he's been with me throughout, and he's given me ample support. And there was a program 3 days ago wherein I spoke about the fact that how he's helped me achieve a lot of things, how he's helped my constituency with funding and stuff. So as I say, he's given me a lift irrigation project costing about 90 crores in my very first year, and he's also given me a special grant of his own of about 25 crores. And the PWD department, Mr. Satish Jarkoli sir, he's also given me a 20 crore project. And mine irrigation has given me 5 crores, and various other ministries have all kind of stood by me and try to support me in all kind of situations by providing me adequate funds for the entire year. So I should be very thankful to my senior leaders who have helped me and who are helping me grow in a very processed manner. I also need to thank Mr. D.K. Shivkumar and Mr. D.K. Suresh, who have been a major guiding force, because ever since my father passed away, they've been thoroughly monitoring my work and guiding me all along. So I need to thank a lot of people, and these are the main 3 people I'd like to thank from the bottom of my heart. And also we have other young MLAs from Mysore and surrounding areas. We have Mr. Harish Gowda from Mysore, we have Mr. Ravi Shankar, we have Mr. Ganesh Prasad, Anil Chikmadu, we have Yatindra Siddaramaiah, most importantly. We have all such young MLAs from Madikeri as well. We have Manta Gowda, we have Senior Advocate Mr. Panana, who are guiding me really well. And to be a youngster in active politics, and especially taking up this role at a very young age at certain situations, they've kind of really stood by me, and every corner, every step of my life, they've been guiding me. So I'm really thankful for them. And generally you would not expect certain this kind of guidance from everybody in your political life, but I feel like I'm very blessed and very lucky to be among such leaders who have such integrity, such reputation, and who've come from such backgrounds. So I feel like I'm really honored to be among them.
Sir, there is one question which comes from a student of mine, and she was very particular that I asked this question to you. Whenever there is a new recruit in a company, they are subjected to training. So when there is a first-time MLA like you, is there any training process in place for first-time MLAs where you are trained to understand the machinery, how it works? Is there any such arrangement?
There is. So ever since we got elected, we've had one such training camp. Thanks to our speaker, Mr. U.T. Kadar. He had organized a 3-day training program for us. So it involved a lot of organizations and public policy institutions and certain public figures who addressed us, and senior politicians who addressed us, and basically tried to get us in motion. And more importantly, the speaker, he insisted that we learn the rules of procedure and how the assembly works, how the parliament works, and how to put in a question, when to speak, when not to speak. So all these things were kind of given to us at a very early point of time. Later on, a theory is different, but again, when you enter the assembly, you have to speak up. And the first timers, generally are very nervous, are very scared to speak in the assembly. But my father always told me one thing, that whenever he was in the parliament or whenever he was in the assembly, the very first session, he had to speak. The minute you speak in the first assembly, nobody is judging you, nobody is talking about you, you're new. So that's when you make your entry, and that's when you take off that robe, and you're one step ahead, and you kind of lose that thing where you're scared, and you're in that zone where you can take off from there. So that is very necessary for all the first-time MLAs, and I should be very thankful to the speaker, because in the very first governor's speech, he had us all address the speech and speak for a few minutes. So that's what got us going. And even now, if you notice in the assembly, you have majority of the first-time MLAs who are actively speaking on all issues, be it governor's speech or the budget or generally any such public issues. They're all up and going. And yeah, I think this assembly, it's been very different because we have a lot of first-time MLAs. I think we have about 70 first-time MLAs from all parties. So it's a very special place to be. And I feel like, there are certain steps that you take with the help of certain people with the right guidance. And I think with every step that we've taken, we've had the right kind of guidance.
The expression that I get to see on your face tells that you are enjoying your assembly participation. We hope that it continues and you raise a lot of questions and solve a lot of problems for the general public, sir. Sir, my next question is, see, life would have definitely changed before elections and after elections. So if you could tell us, how was life before elections and how is life after elections?
I put it in a different way. How was life before my father passed, after my father passed, because it was a very important decision of my life, whether to step in politics or, because it was a very different moment for me. It was a very difficult moment. And we were in a situation where we were not in that position to take that step. It was a very difficult situation. So before my father passed, I was actively participating in all courts, as I said. I started my work from the district court and then practicing the high court. I was doing look at the tribunals and stuff. So it is a very different life. You have fixed hours and you work at least 5-6 days a week. Then you have an off. And yeah, you need that rest end of the day. And lawyers, when we begin, we do not have that kind of rest because you're constantly grinding and But I reached that phase where I got to involve with the procedure. I got to learn a lot of things very early in life because I had an amazing senior and he insisted that I argue. He insisted that I do the final arguments on our own. So he had given a lot of exposure. So I was in a very comfortable place. And after my father passed, again, it was a very difficult decision. It was a very difficult situation. So during that phase is where the people of my constituency, Nanjangud Vidhan Sabha, they all stood by me. And even now, they are the reason I grind every single day. I wake up and go to work every single day with that kind of motivation. Ever since that day, they've just changed my life. And they've been through it all with me. They've stood by me. And they've given me the right kind of focus that I need in life to work for them. And simultaneously, I've also started seeing my parents in them. And that's where my focus gets in. So I kind of treat all issues as my own issues. And that is where, I'm spending a lot of hours on the ground. So that's how the energy also keeps coming in and the grind keeps going.
How does a typical day look like in the life of an MLA like you?
It depends. Surely it depends. Each days are different. So generally I have my week set. So Mondays I work starting 7 in the morning. 7 in the morning we do ward rounds in the town areas. After which we do office. Office we see general public up until lunch. Post lunch we either hit the villages or have meetings. Today we had 2 such meetings. We had the preliminary meeting of Gandhi Jayanti and we had one Bagarukum meeting as well. After which, again we had to see some people and travel here to be with the podcast. Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are all the same. I see people at home as well. So every day is problem solving, generally. And Thursday, Friday and Saturday, generally I'm in Bangalore. So we have different issues that we have to take up to the ministers, to the chief minister. And there are certain things that get done at the higher level. So we'll have to accommodate time for that as well. So I spend equal amount of time doing that quite naturally because again it's all about following up. And my dad was known for that job because he used to run table to table. So I've been doing the same in Bangalore as well. So I visit secretaries, I visit ministers, I visit the chief minister, deputy chief minister, and I make sure the work gets done. So this is one schedule that we have in place. It's very rigorous, but again, the right kind of motivation that people give me, the right kind of energy that the people give me, that's kept me going all along.
Wonderful, sir. It's nice to know that somebody like you is putting so much of efforts for the development of your constituency. This prompts me to ask the next question. If you were to define development, what is your definition?
See, I have a very different answer to this because I've seen system from the outside as an individual, as a youth, and now I'm seeing the system from inside as a youth. So I've seen both, and I quite naturally have thoughts of both. So I've thought about certain issues as a youth behind the system, out of the box, and now when I'm inside, I have my answers. So one thing that I like to put it out that development is a two-way process. It has to be two-way. there has to be cooperation from the public. It is impossible to carry out development without any cooperation. If you have hurdles all along, it is highly impossible for you to take up any developmental activity. And I've faced the situations as well. For the last 1 year, I've faced certain situations, and it puts you off as well. But again, it's all about, as I put it earlier, it's about the policy making cycle. It's part of it. So you have to know how to deal with it. So again, managing that is a different challenge. It takes a lot of effort. And I should not be complaining that it's only about our country or our state. It's the entire world. So again, I request the public to cooperate with certain activities that involve development. And it's our constitutional right to have certain developmental activities. Meanwhile, we also have certain duties to follow. And I'd like to remind the public about their duties as well. So there are, corresponding duties that come along with the rights as well. So if we follow the right rules and do our duties, I think development would be at ease. I'd like to put it that way. That's what I've seen from 1 year. Because stepping out of the box and complaining is a different thing. And when you're in the system,
Being in the system,
it's a different thing. It's a different thing. So again, it's a two-way procedure. Unless and until we have cooperation from the public, we have full involvement from the public, we have full duties and liabilities that are being taken up with the public, only then I feel like we can succeed in today's world.
Sir, in a democratic setup like ours, when the Gen Z says that they don't like politics or they don't keep themselves updated with the political developments, how dangerous is it? A lot of youngsters just want to keep away from the political system and political updates. Isn't it dangerous?
I feel like we need more youngsters who are well informed, who are more woke in politics. Well informed, what I mean to say by well informed is people who know both pros and cons, who know advantages and disadvantages, and who are well read about primary, secondary, all the research. So my thoughts on this is it's very different and it's very straightforward, and I keep saying it in all platforms. So what youngsters need to have today is a mind where they can think of both the worlds, negative and positive, pros and cons, before they decide on a certain aspect. That is where debating comes into place. That is where your research comes into place. That is where your essay writing comes into place. I was not part of the system before I did my master's. So while I was doing my master's, it was very interesting. 1 hour of class followed by 1 hour of discussion on the same class. So that's when we were very involved in certain issues. That's when we came read to class. We came read about the positives, negatives, advantages. We came read. We used to read all sorts of articles that are prescribed, and not one set of articles that only suggested one kind of issue or one kind of opinion. So that is where a decisive mind kind of developed. So to have a decisive making mind, you need to be well read. You need to read both the sides. That's when you can make a solid decision. So I suggest, certain in certain places, in certain schools, colleges, wherein they organize different events, that the youth they have to refrain from making destructive criticism and follow with constructive criticism, and be more informed, and thinking about certain pros and cons advantages, disadvantages, so that they can make a proper decision, a right kind of decision. So when you have certain such people in politics is when you can make a solid difference. So I suggest people, youngsters, to be more active in debating, in essay writing, in certain activities that involve research, primary or secondary, so that that could put them in the right sphere, and maybe they would be a solid base for future politics and more informed politics is what I'm trying to say.
Sir, we'll again change the direction a little. We'll talk a little about the villages. See, India still lives in the villages, there is no doubt about it, and the constituency that you represent has a lot of villages. And I'm of the firm belief that unless our villages become self-sustained, we cannot achieve the goals that we have set for ourselves. So what are your thoughts on this? How important is village economy for a country like that of ours?
Absolutely. It is very important to be self-reliant. It is very important to generate your own revenue so that you can be self-reliant. I could give you one such example that we are trying to get in place. So Badnavalu is a village in my constituency which has historic importance and which has historic relevance, specifically with respect to the Indian freedom struggle. The father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhiji, had visited that place twice, once in 1927 and another time during the freedom struggle, and he established Khadi handlooming center in that particular village. He also established certain small industries, mini industries that involved matchbox making, your clothes making or whatever, small certain industries. That, as you said, it gave the local economy a major boost and made the village more revenue generating and self-reliant in that way. So now, in this situation, in today's world, we, with the help of our Chief Minister, Mr. Siddaramaiah, what we are trying to do is, Badnavalu village, since it has historic significance, and I don't know if you're aware of the Bharat Jodo Yatra. It is very historic Bharat Jodo Yatra, which came along the Badnavalu village as well. During that point of time, the current leader of opposition, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, and the Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, and D.K. Shivkumar sir, and my father at that point of time, they had promised the villagers that we would take steps to improve and develop the Khadi handlooming center in Badnavalu. And even last year, we organized a similar yatra from Nanjangud to Badnavalu to celebrate Gandhi Jayanti on October 2nd.
Okay.
And again, we promised the people that we would deliver. Now, today, we had our first meeting of the developmental works that would be taken up in that particular place. We had our very first meeting today.
Okay.
This is due to the blessings of Mr. Siddaramaiah. So in the previous budget, in his first budget, he had announced that we would be fully developing Badnavalu Khadi handlooming center, and we would take whatever steps required to make sure that it becomes self-reliant and revenue generating source.
Okay.
So keeping that in mind, we have taken up certain developmental activities in that place. We are in that zone where we are preparing a DPR as to what activities need to take place there so that the village and that center becomes a revenue generating area wherein the entire village, the entire panchayat itself can become self-sufficient, so that they do not want to rely on any government funds later on in life when we are not there. So
It's a futuristic program.
Yes, so that the project never dies.
Great.
So we're on the lines where we're creating something very futuristic, and it is our baby. So we're kind of taking slow steps on that. And yeah, hopefully, I think with all puzzles put in place, I think we'll be able to achieve something big from that area.
Nice.
So hopefully.
Sir, I'll ask my last question. Since we represent a college, we would definitely be interested to know your message to the school and college going girls and boys. What's your message to them?
Well, as I said, stay more informed, stay woke, make sure you read up well, make sure you do your primary, secondary research, and make sure you participate on all events, because education is just part of life. What you learn out of your school or college, what you learn from your extracurriculars, or what you learn from your sporting activities will also matter the most, and will also groom you to be a great individual. So I request them to take every opportunity they get in life, because I have done the same. Thankfully, my parents, they got me involved in a lot of extracurriculars at a very young age in life. So yeah, take up all the extracurriculars, be more active, and yeah, just say walk.
So it was wonderful interacting with you. The kind of interest and enthusiasm that you have towards development of the society is truly appreciable. We hope that all your projects get completed on time and they deliver the results.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
So much.